Our planet is home to billions of living beings, from microscopic one-cell organisms to huge mammals. All of them are biological units that make up the Earth's living shell, the biosphere. In total, the animal kingdom is made up of about 1.5 million species. And you might find this surprising, but 65% of all animal species on the planet are insects. So, what comes to mind when you hear the word insect? Something small and insignificant, perhaps. Something that may cause a certain inconvenience, but not so serious as to provide a reason for worry. Unless, that is, of course, you're a farmer and a swarm of locusts threaten to devastate your crop. For an ordinary person living in Europe or North America, when we hear or think of the word insect, this likely conjures up a mental image of a mosquito, a fly, a spider, or a cockroach. These representatives of the class Insecta are ubiquitous in the temperate climate zone. But if you happen to live somewhere in the tropics, in all likelihood you won't think them such harmless and inconsequential little creatures. Under tropical belt conditions, insects come in truly large and dangerous varieties. For example, the Titan beetle, living in the rainforests of Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia, can grow to 7 inches or almost 18 centimeters in length. And while visiting an exotic island in the Caribbean, you may encounter the Scolopendra gigantea. This ominous name, as you might have guessed, was given for a reason. This species is indeed a giant among representatives of its class, with a body consisting of more than 20 segments and a length reaching up to an incredible 12 inches. That's over 30 centimeters. In humans, the bite of a Scolopendra causes local swelling and pain that can last a day and night through. But even these incredibly large insects are no match for their horrific ancestors, which inhabited the Earth millions and billions of years ago. But first, before we continue, I've got a question for you. Have you ever heard of the World Catfight Championship? No? Well, to tell you the truth, I was just as surprised as you when I first heard about it. I know it sounds wacky, but I now actually take part in this crazy catfight championship myself. You want to know more? Okay, it's the super top secret project called CATS I'm talking about. If your passion for mobile games is anything like old Riddle has, you simply gotta try CATS. Put simply, your character in this game is a feisty little alley cat who dreams of rising from the bottom of the social heap to becoming the winner of the most ferocious competition in his domain. To do this, you're gonna have to equip your cat with a vehicle of war. This is totally up to your creative genius. You can even skip the wheels if you want. Every time you beat someone, you earn more and more awesome parts, ultimately making your car almost invincible. The automated fighting leaves you plenty of time to enjoy designing your perfect war machine. Your battle cat will take care of the rest. I had so much fun playing I could talk about it for hours, but you better see it for yourself. Download the game right now via the link in the description and register with the promo code RIDDLE to take advantage of a cool bonus, a load of crystals to level up your cat right from the start. Humankind has been ever curious about what transpired before our time, before the rise of humans on the Earth. We strive to unravel the mysteries behind the origin of our species, our planet, and the universe at large. Various research and excavations have provided scientists with only a fragmentary picture of what transpired at certain points in the past. Obviously, many questions remain. But thanks to these tireless researchers, we now have more information than ever about the events that took place hundreds of millions of years before the, historically speaking, very recent emergence of Homo sapiens. We all have some ideas about dinosaurs, picturing them as giant prehistoric reptiles. But dinosaurs weren't the only inhabitants of the planet during that period. 250 million years ago and later, a large number of insect species coexisted with the great lizards and were equally successful. And I do not use the word equally here lightly. Paleontological digs across the globe have provided scientists with numerous insect fossil finds. Most of them aren't that significant, but the imposing size of some of these specimens would challenge the vision of even the greatest horror writers. For example, A giant flea discovered during excavations in Mongolia has an inch-long body that's 2.5 centimeters, in comparison to its modern kin, a true giant. Its piercing and sucking proboscis reaches 1/5 of an inch, or almost a centimeter long. Yeah! Not exactly a towering monster, but it's hard to imagine anybody'd be happy to find one in their bed. And if you think that's all the prehistoric world has to offer, think again. Let me introduce Dictyoneuridae, a family of ancient insects that lived on Earth 230 million years ago. The span of this giant's wings exceeded 20 inches, or over 50 centimeters. Not too shabby if you ask me. Due to their size, they needed to shed not only at the larval stage, but also during their adult life. And their oral apparatus was not quite unlike the beak of a bird of prey. No less interesting were the members of the order Paleodictyoptera, which lived 250 million years ago. As one of the specimens that was unearthed demonstrated, these gargantuan insects could grow to a wingspan of a whopping 23 inches, that's almost 59 centimeters. But even they were dwarfed by some other insect dwellers of the prehistoric Earth. One example is the ancient ancestor of the dragonfly, Meganeura, which inhabited the planet from the early Paleozoic to the beginning of the Permian era, roughly 250 to 300 million years ago. Two representatives of this species are considered the largest flying insects of all time, with a wingspan reaching up to 40 inches or a meter wide. Among today's flying creatures, only a couple of dozen birds can claim characteristics similar to those of the flying arthropods of that ancient bygone era. So what about the ancestors of insects whose stings result in thousands of human deaths every year? Enter the scorpions. 330 million years ago, enormous scorpions called Anomalocaris roamed our planet. These frightening creatures reached up to 28 inches or 71 centimeters long. One can scarcely imagine, and must shudder at the thought, of how many people could fall victim to this creature's sting were they still to exist. The terrestrial version of the oldest scorpion is worlds apart from its seagoing aquatic cousin. This giant sea scorpion was a typical inhabitant of our planet between 460 and 250 million years ago. Just recently, scientists managed to find a petrified claw of one specimen, which gave us some idea of the enormous size this monster could actually achieve. It turns out that this ancient predator of the seas and oceans of the world could grow to as large as 80 inches or 2 meters in length. But even Anomalocaris isn't the record holder among prehistoric insectile creatures. Roughly 350 million years ago, there existed a fascinating arthropod genus called Arthropleura, the largest known insects in the history of our planet. Some species could reach up to 120 inches. That's 3 meters. Heretofore a length thought impossible for an invertebrate. And should I mention that this huge creature walked on 60 legs? It's safe to assume that upon meeting such an ungodly beast, while taking a stroll through the woods, your average Homo sapiens would poop his pants, to say the least. Come to think of it, the same reaction might be brought about by a chance meeting with any of the aforementioned gigantic bugs. A quick analysis of this information immediately reveals a pattern. The more ancient the insects, the greater their size. Paleobiologists already have the explanation for this gigantism. In the era of dinosaurs, the atmospheric pressure on Earth was about 8 atmospheres, and even greater, up to 12 atmospheres in earlier times. Moreover, the atmospheric content of oxygen back then reached as high as 35%. These factors allowed for, and even encouraged, the development of organisms with much larger dimensions. Up to this point, we've been discussing insect-like creatures living in eras no earlier than the Paleozoic, which began 550 million years ago. As of now, no remains of earlier such creatures have ever been found. At least, nothing has reached our times intact. We can only guess that their dimensions were undoubtedly humongous. Indeed, as we've seen, the younger the Earth was, the higher was the pressure and oxygen content in the air. So if we know that 500 million years ago, 80-inch, 2-meter-long insects existed, then what flying and crawling monstrosities might have been buzzing about, say, 1 billion years ago, or even 5 billion? You might object and say that the first living organisms only appeared on the Earth 3 billion years ago. But we really don't know that for sure. This is only a theory that scientists currently agree on, and that could instantly collapse if just one fossil dated more billions of years ago is found. And as long as additional excavations are carried out, the possibility for such a discovery remains. Our knowledge of early life on our own planet is rather sketchy, to say the least, and a small object or two brought to the light of present day from the secret vaults of the ancient Earth could shatter the present scientific consensus in the blink of an eye. And while we wait for the next revolutionary discovery, it's worth remembering that, though overshadowed somewhat by the now almost 8 billion representatives of Homo sapiens, the descendants of living creatures no less majestic still exist on our planet. But then, considering how many years and epochs and eons younger we humans are as a species, and how phenomenally fewer there are of us than of the insects who number in the trillions upon trillions, mightn't it be more apt, perhaps, to say that it is we who are overshadowed by them?